Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Luffy ate dragon fruit part 8. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video and also share this video with your friends. I have created my other videos playlist, there you can watch my all videos easily, check out as well. Let's start this video. Luffy sat on the deck as his ship approached the Gecko Islands. It would be a bit more until they reached their main destination, Syrup Village. It had been many years since Luffy had last seen Usopp when the man departed with Shanks to the Grand Line, but he would never forget that Usopp had a wife and son for two simple reasons. Reason number one was that the sharpshooter had never shut up about his wife and son. The man often boasted about the beautiful woman who had given him a son who would undoubtedly grow up to be a man's man. The second reason he would never forget about Usopp's family was that the man had asked Luffy to deliver a letter to his son when he departed to become a pirate. Luffy had asked Usopp why the old pirate couldn't send a message or a letter himself, and the answer had been quite surprising. My son is around your age, Luffy, when you're a man ready to head out to sea, my son will also be a man. He will be the proper age to read my letter and understand its meaning. I could send it out years from now, but I'm a pirate. The Grand Line doesn't have a reliable postal service, and heck, I could even be dead by the time my son's a man. A pirate's life isn't exactly the safest. Do this as a favor to me, Luffy, please. Luffy could hardly refuse such a request. The letter had stayed with Makino for safekeeping until he had been ready to depart, and he now held it in his hand, so close to delivering a pirate message to his son. All this for a letter, eh? Buggy's voice spoke up, drawing Luffy's attention to the clown pirate who walked up on deck and took a seat next to him. Buggy had changed to a slightly more subtle outfit of blue and green. His hat was now gone, and instead, his blue hair was tied up in a large ponytail. All this for a promise, was Luffy's response, and the two fell into a slightly uncomfortable silence until Luffy remembered a question he had been meaning to ask someone like Buggy. Hey Buggy, when did you eat your devil fruit? The question seemed to catch the clown pirate off guard, but he indulged Luffy's curiosity. I couldn't have been much younger than you. It was back when I was a cabin boy on a pirate ship. Did it change you? Luffy asked bluntly, not knowing how else to phrase his question. Change me? Buggy asked. It gave me these powers, letting me become a splitting human. Aside from that, it robbed me of the ability to swim, which I used to be amazing at, although I get the feeling you're asking me something else, since you also are a devil fruit and would know this. Luffy nodded. I mean, did it change who you were on the inside? He pointed at his head. Who you are as a person, I guess. Ever since I ate my fruit, I've been obsessed with treasure. I always liked treasure, but now it's like an itch that I always need to scratch. You mean like a compulsion outside of your control? Yeah, exactly like what you said, the combo thing. Luffy nodded vigorously. Also, I get angry at things more than I want to be. Back in Orange Town, I got so angry that I attacked without any restraint. That's good, though, they deserved it, and mercy would have been wasted on them. Maybe it's hypocritical coming from a scoundrel like me, but even I don't take part in slavery or senseless slaughter. The clown muttered. I'm willing to do almost anything to make it, but treating people like cargo to be bought and sold is disgusting. I saw plenty of that in the Grand Line, and it made me hate slavers with a passion. There's a difference between killing a man in a fight and enslaving him and his entire family so that they can die under the ownership of a world noble. Even the worst pirates in the Grand Line and even the New World look like upstanding citizens compared to the elite of the world government. Luffy felt a pang of anger at the mention of the term world noble, and he had to calm himself down. That's another thing, a world noble killed my brother, and since then, I've hated them. Even hearing about them is enough to make me fly into a rage. That's a normal human response. Buggy muttered. If someone killed my brother, I would hate them too, not that I ever had a brother, but still. It's not like that. Luffy tried to find the words to describe what he was feeling, what he felt deep in his heart. It's like my brother was killed, and it makes me angry, but it's terrible anger. Ever since eating my devil fruit, I just don't know. He was never good with words, and as usual, they were failing him. Has things always been like this? Usually, he just said what he was thinking, talking had been easy when he was younger. But ever since he had eaten the devil fruit, he felt like he lacked the vocabulary to say what his brain was thinking. You ate a mythical's own, so stuff like that is bound to happen. Devil fruits have unintended side effects beyond the normal powers and weaknesses they grant. Buggy pointed out as he reached into his pocket and produced a wooden tobacco pipe and began placing some tobacco into it. He held the people up to Luffy. You got a light. Luffy let out a tiny stream of fire from his mouth that lit the tobacco pipe from which Buggy began to smoke. I'm no expert, but I have been around the oceans and have met numerous fruit users. Buggy muttered in between puffs. They vary, but zone fruits do have side effects on mental faculties. I met a guy who ate a type of sheep's own fruit and spent his days eating vegetables and napping. Met another guy who ate some kind of alligator devil fruit and he spent his days living in a swamp, eating frogs and crawdads raw. He was also super territorial and violent when riled up. So zone fruits make people like the animals they possess. Luffy leaned back and soaked in the information. He knew he had been different since eating his devil fruit, but it was disturbing to know it was part of a pattern. Buggy shrugged. Maybe, I think it's mostly minor. I've heard it said that carnivorous zone fruits, which give you the power of a predatory animal, can make you more violent. In your case, a dragon fruit was bound to affect you, but I wouldn't worry about it. You seem to have a good lease on things. I've met men who couldn't separate the man from the beast. You're very much in control. Except when I fully transformed, Luffy muttered. The more I use my dragon form, the larger and stronger I make it, the less I have control. When I get to my maximum size and start battling, I'm a monster. My grandpa and I used to train in order to try and get my power under control. He was the only one who could stop me when I went on a rampage. Sounds like your gramps is a crazy strong geezer. Buggy muttered after exhaling a puff of smoke. Can't imagine anyone stopping a fully grown dragon outside of the New World. He's tough. Luffy rubbed his chin. One of his grandpa's punches could knock him out even as a dragon. He trained me as best he could, taught me the basics of dot. Buggy chuckled. The basics, huh? That'll get you far in this ocean, even in the Grand Line for a bit, but soon you'll need to try harder than the basics. Luffy couldn't help but frown at that. What would you know about haki? Buggy smiled and got up, bringing up his right fist in front of him and opening his hand up as if he were going to give Luffy a high five. Watch this, kid. Luffy watched as Buggy stood there and seemed to be struggling with something. The man's skin turned flush and he began to sweat profusely. It looked like he was struggling to take a massive shit but couldn't due to constipation. Watch this, I'm going to do it. Buggy grunted in pain and soon Luffy saw Buggy's middle finger turn pitch black for about 2 seconds before fading back to normal. Buggy let out a tired breath as if all the energy had been sapped from his body. Oh, go do you think I'm going to? Buggy ran to the ship's side and threw up for nearly half a minute. Once he was done emptying his stomach, he walked back casually, as proud as a peacock, as if he hadn't just emptied out his guts. See that? Pretty impressive, right? I can use haki as well. Luffy couldn't help but burst out laughing. Shashathwa, all that just to reinforce your finger with haki. I thought you were going to die. That'll be really useful if you have to point aggressively in a battle or flip someone off angrily. It's been a long time since I had to do it. Buggy protested angrily. You're lucky you didn't meet me when I was your age. I did battle with Whitebeard back when that old coot was in his prime. Luffy reined in his laughter. Okay, is there a point to your finger flex? What does being able to kind of use mean to me? It means that any pirate worth their salt in the New World, and even most of the Grand Line, can use at least one form of it. Buggy explained. You might be able to easily push your way through the East Blue, but the Grand Line is the frontier of this world, and the frontier pushes back. I'll handle things. Luffy waved off Buggy's concerns. If strong guys come after us, I'll just have to get stronger. We're here. Nami's voice called out, making Luffy and Buggy look up and see that they were approaching their destination. On the horizon, the island they had come to visit was in view, and Luffy felt a surge of excitement as the potential for a new adventure awaited him. Buggy started to walk away but looked once more at Luffy. Just think about what I said, kid, you're strong, but there are plenty that are stronger. You're the captain here, which means you're responsible for the lives of your crew, especially my life. If anyone tries to hurt my crew, I'll just kick their ass. Luffy declared proudly he wouldn't let anyone harm his crew. He remembered how members of the red-haired pirates would speak about the way Shanks defended his men in battle. He would do the same. But Buggy replied, his tone surprisingly serious. Just keep getting strong, make us rich, then we can retire on a mountain of gold. After we found the One Piece, Luffy added. I can't be a pirate king unless we find One Piece. The One Piece, Buggy muttered. You really want it, huh? You don't? Luffy asked, not understanding his newest crew member's words. I thought you wanted treasure. The One Piece is the greatest treasure in the whole world. Unless you think Gold Roger was lying about it or. Goldie Roger was no liar. Buggy declared passionately, surprising Luffy. The One Piece exists, I know it. But it's not, never mind. Forget I said anything. With that, Buggy walked away, leaving Luffy alone and confused. Weird. Luffy muttered as he watched Buggy's retreating figure. Must be a clown thing. Soon Luffy and his crew were brought up onto the island's shore. It was rather peaceful, and one might think the island was abandoned if it wasn't for the fact that Luffy knew there was a village here. He looked over and saw his crew getting ready to travel inland, although the armed state of his 4 newest crew members was somewhat worrying. Buggy, Kabaji, and Moji were armed to the teeth with various swords and guns. Buggy himself was strapping numerous pistols to his chest, belt, and every other spot on his clothes that could hold a weapon. "What are you three doing?" Nami said, asking what everyone else was thinking. "What?" Buggy asked, seemingly not understanding. "We're pirates, you always go to shore armed and ready to rumble." "We're delivering a letter and finding a new ship," Nami pointed out. "I don't think we need enough firepower to fight a battalion of marines for that." Buggy shrugged. "Well, we might need it to get a new ship, we are stealing a ship, right? You need weapons to do a proper boarding." "We aren't stealing a ship," Nami declared. "This is a small village, we will be lucky to find a big ship here." "But if we find a ship, we're stealing it, right?" Buggy asked. "As long as the person we're stealing it from is rich." Luffy put forward as he stretched and got ready to walk to the village. "I grew up in a fishing village, we aren't stealing some poor fisherman's livelihood." Buggy didn't seem pleased by that. "Here, I thought I joined a pirate crew, not a nunnery. Stealing from rich people is funner than stealing from poor people." Luffy pointed out, his fondest memories were of him and his brothers stealing from the Goa Kingdom's nobility. "He's got a point," Zoro muttered his agreement. "Even if we don't steal a ship, we should still steal something from a rich person, maybe we could sneak into some rich person's wine cellar and steal all the booze. Or meat cellar." Moji pointed out as he pets his lion. "Richie needs to eat some meat." The lion let out a growl of agreement as he purred under his master's attention. "The meat cellar sounds great," Luffy declared happily. "Can never have too much meat, I bet a rich person would have some amazing meat in their cellar." "Do people even store meat in cellars?" Kabaji asked. "I've never heard of that." "Rich people have cellars for everything, it's how the upper class store all their stuff," Buggy pointed out matter-of-factly. "I once raided a town where the mayor stored a bunch of exotic lizards in his cellar. Sold those to a traveling merchant for a lot of dot." "I never thought I would be saying this, but could we please stop talking about stealing?" Nami asked. "We are here too." She was cut off by the sound of a loud whistle, and all eyes turned to a dark figure standing atop a large cliff that overlooked the beach that they had landed on. "I am Usopp, a warrior of the sea and protector of this island. I have 10,000 men ready to attack you scheming thieves, so turn back now or face a true warrior and..." Boom. The sound of a loud gunshot rang out across the beach, and everyone turned to see Buggy holding up a smoking pistol. The dark figure hadn't been hit directly, but he lost his balance out of pure surprise and fell down the cliff and landed in a heap upon a sandy part of the beach. "Alright, is that it? Has the true warrior been faced?" Buggy asked as he aimed his pistol at the now prone form of the new arrival. "Or are we still?" "Give me that." Nami grabbed the pistol from Buggy's hand. "Stop shooting everything, you deranged maniac. He threatened to attack us with 10,000 men." Buggy protested as he pointed at the stranger, who was now picking himself up off the sand. "Shooting at him was logical, what do you expect me to do when threatened? Sit around with a thumb up my ass waiting to get killed? Not believe a dumb lie like that. I doubt this island has more than a few hundred people on it," Nami pointed out. While they argued, Luffy walked over to the person who had fallen off the cliff. Luffy had been so busy thinking about meat sellers that he barely heard or understood what the person had yelled out. The boy picked himself up, and Luffy had to stop as he looked at a damn near spitting image of a younger Usopp. The only thing different about the person in front of him was his massive nose. "I surrender," the boy cried out as he held his hands up in fear. "Don't hurt me. If you do, 1,000,000 men will come over that hill to avenge my death and..." Luffy ignored his words and put a voice to his thoughts. "You're Usopp's son, aren't you?" The boy paused, his fear disappearing instantly and was replaced with surprise. "Usopp?" he asked curiously. "What does my father have to do with who are you, people?" Luffy grabbed the boy, Usopp, if his memory was right, and helped him up. "I have a lot to tell you, but first, we need to eat. I've eaten nothing but salted meat and gruel for the last few days of sailing, and I need a real meal." Usopp sat awkwardly in his hometown's only bar restaurant as his new acquaintances drew a larger and larger crowd as they all sat around the largest table the restaurant had. It wasn't surprising, his hometown was small, so new arrivals in town drew attention, but this group that had scared him half to death on the beach was truly a strange and exotic bunch. A swordsman with 3 swords, an orange-haired woman with a penchant for hitting people, 3 circus performers, a lion, and a captain with a bottomless stomach. "I can't pay for all this, I'm on a fixed income," Usopp said truthfully, a strange phenomenon for him, but he had to do it since the captain of this crew of miscreants was eating so much food it was a wonder he didn't explode. "I make money doing odd jobs around the village, I can't afford a feast of this size." The restaurant owner and chef struggled to keep up with the man's eating. "More meat," the boy who called himself Luffy called out as he finished off a giant piece of meat. It was horrifying to watch him eat. Once he finished with the meat, he turned on the bones and crunched through them like they were breadsticks before swallowing them whole. The man wasn't human. "I don't care if it's raw, I'll cook it myself," Luffy called out, and soon a giant uncooked cow leg with the bones still in it was hefted out by a chef. Usopp could only watch in awe as the boy breathed fire out of his mouth, cooking the meat instantly. "What are you?" Usopp asked as he watched as the boy finished his meat in a few bites. "I'm Luffy, it's nice to meet you, Usopp," the boy said before turning back to his food and ignoring Usopp. "Although I kind of feel like I've known you for ages with the way Usopp wouldn't stop talking about you. You look just like him, except you have a bigger nose." "Who's got a big nose?" Buggy, who was seated a few seats down from them, demanded. "Are you making fun of me?" "No, I'm talking about him," Luffy replied as he pointed at Usopp. "He's a dead ringer for Shanks' crew member Usopp, the only difference is his long nose." That statement seemed to calm Buggy. "Ah, okay, guess he does have a big weird nose, it looks like someone stuck a twig on his face," the clown said with a chuckle. That made Usopp mad. "My nose might be long, but at least it isn't red and bulbous. You look like someone stuck a bouncy ball on your face, you weirdo." A bit harsh, but Usopp didn't care, he inherited his nose from his mother, and he was proud of it. "At least I don't have a cock stuck to my head, you pecker-faced child. At least I don't have a tomato for a nose." "Why, you little buggy," looked like he was about to pounce but was punched by Nami. "Don't dish out insults if you can't take them, Dumbus," she growled as she glared at Buggy. "I can't believe a man like you made people tremble in fear. Makes me want to rethink my outlook on your lot." "Enough of this." Usopp was getting annoyed by this entire situation. "Can you just explain what you're doing here and how you know my dad?" "Okay," Luffy replied simply, and over the next hour, Usopp listened as he heard all about his father's exploits and Luffy's reason for being here. It all seemed like a dream. His dad was a sharpshooter for one of the 4 emperors, Luffy was a devil fruit user who wanted to be pirate king, and for the first time ever, he was going to have correspondence with his father in the form of a letter. Usopp held up the letter Luffy had handed him as if it were a holy relic. He opened it and there were 2 letters within it. One for him and one for his mother. Ignoring his mother's letter, he opened up the one addressed to him and began reading. "To my son, Usopp. If you're reading this letter, then that means Luffy managed to deliver my letter to you without damaging it or eating it." That made Usopp chuckle, but he ignored the humor and continued. "I've spent years trying to figure out what to write in this letter and what to say to you. The last time I saw you and your mother was when I was pulling out of the harbor with my crew and watching her wave goodbye with you standing next to her, barely taller than her knees. It broke my heart to leave you both, but the pirate flag was calling me and all the freedom it promised. I know that must sound selfish, especially since you've had to grow up without a father. I know I'm a bad parent and I wouldn't blame you if you hated me, I would probably hate me. I just want you to know that not a day goes by where I don't think of you and your mother. Every day I'm tempted to steal a ship and sail back home and see the both of you, but to do so, I would have to abandon my comrades in arms. That's something a man cannot do, a man keeps his promises, and I promise to stand by my brothers here in the new world. I have no idea what type of man you have grown up to be or what path you've chosen in life. But whatever choice you make or whatever you choose to do in your life, I want you to know that I support you and I'm proud of you. The life of a pirate is dangerous, and there's a chance that by the time you receive this letter, I'm already dead. I just want you to know that I love you and your mother. My only regret in life is not being able to see what a good and strong man you have no doubt become. Love, your dad, Usopp." Usopp was crying, he had to wipe away the tears from his eyes and put on a strong face. A strong man wouldn't cry in public like this. He turned his gaze to the crew that had delivered this letter to him and bowed deeply. "Thank you for this," he managed to say despite the intense emotions flowing through him. "I don't have much, but if there's anything I can do for you, please tell me. Anything other than paying for this meal because I think I would have to sell my house to afford the tab you guys just created." He expected some heartfelt response, but instead, the giant lion the crew seemed to keep as a pet ran up and tried to snatch a large piece of meat out of Luffy's mouth, which resulted in the 2 of them wrestling. "It's my meat, Richie," Luffy screamed in anger as he dug his teeth into the meat and tried to yank it away from the lion. "Moji, get your damn lion to let go of my meat." Usopp could only watch as the 2 wrestle on the ground, which caused a fair bit of chaos as they hit tables and sent patrons stumbling as a giant lion and human fighting over meat caused a fair bit of chaos. The captain and lion rolled into Zoro, which sent the green-haired man stumbling, causing him to spill a large drink he had been holding. "You made me spill my beer. You bastards." The swordsman grabbed Luffy around the throat with one hand and the lion by its whiskers with the other, and the 3 began to brawl. Usopp was pulled from the brawl by Nami, who let out a tired sigh. "Look, since my idiot associates are busy beating the crap out of each other, I'll just tell you what we need. Since you clearly don't have money, we need a ship, a large ship capable of crossing the seas easily, and enough living quarters for a fairly large crew. Is there anyone on this island with a ship like that? Usopp had to duck as a knife flew just over his head and embedded itself into a nearby wall. Despite the obvious chaos of the situation, he did know of someone with a large ship that wasn't being used. Luckily, the owner of the ship was someone he was close with. I think I can help you guys, I know someone that can help. An hour later, after his new acquaintances had eaten their fill, Usopp led them to the one person on the entire island who would be able to help them in their quest for a ship. It led them to the gates of a mansion near the edge of town. Usopp explained the situation of the owner of the mansion. Kaya was extremely sickly and couldn't leave her mansion due to her weak body. He would often sneak up to her window and tell her stories that would lift her spirits. The stories were all lies, but so long as they were good ones, Kaya didn't seem to mind. Once he and his group reached the mansion's gates, he turned to his acquaintances. Alright, so I'll sneak over the wall and speak with Kaya, and he was cut off by Luffy, pushing through the mansion's main gate and walking onto Kaya's property with all the subtlety of a bull breaking through a barn. Or, "Pairings girl, where are you?" Luffy called out with all the tact of a crazed hobo. "I need your boat." Nami went over to smack Luffy for his rudeness and lack of tact, but the boy ducked under her attack and kept on calling out for Kaya. "Be quiet and follow me," Usopp commanded as he grabbed Luffy by his arm and led him around the back of the mansion where Kaya's room was. "Just shut up and let me do the talking." Soon he and his new friends were standing outside Kaya's window, and the blonde-haired heiress came to the window once Usopp had called for her. "Usopp, it's good to see you and..." Kaya paused as she looked at the motley crew surrounding him. "Who are all of you? Is that a lion and a clown? Usopp, is this some kind of surprise party or something?" "We want your ship," and Luffy began, but Usopp slammed a hand over the boy's mouth before he could ruin this moment. While he felt obligated to help out his new friends, he had a bigger obligation to Kaya. That obligation was to make her feel better by telling her amazing stories, and this entire day gave him an idea for an amazing tale. "It's a great story, Kaya. It all started when I went out on patrol with my brave crew to make sure this village was safe from pirates. That when I spotted a ship and..." Buggy was a patient man. That might surprise some people since he knew he could be flamboyant and hasty at times. But he didn't survive all these years on the seas by rushing into situations. He spent years building up his strength in the East Blue before preparing to strike off for the Grand Line. Patience was one of the few virtues he could claim to possess. The same way a viper coiled and waited for the right time to strike, Buggy waited and only struck when victory was a near certainty. Yet listening to Usopp embellish the story of his meeting, the crew was pushing that patience to its limits. Then I deflected the bullet that Buggy shot at me using a rubber band and a paperclip to dot. Then I heroically decided to help. After fighting off 1,000 pirates, Buggy was almost tempted to reach for his pistol so that this would end. He would either shoot Usopp so the boy's story would end or shoot himself so that he wouldn't have to listen to it anymore. Right before he reached for his gun, a voice cut through everything, drawing the attention of everyone present. "Why is a bunch of worthless trash trespassing upon Lady Kaya's property?" a well-dressed man asked. The new arrival was dressed in an expensive suit and looked like a butler. Words were exchanged between Luffy, Usopp and the new arrival. But Buggy ignored it all and stayed silent. Why was the man so familiar? The black suit, the slick back hair, the look of superiority. It wasn't until the man looked at Buggy and they locked eyes did Buggy remember, and judging by the predatory look in his opponent's eyes, the man remembered Buggy as well. During his time sailing and raiding, the East Blue Buggy often had skirmishes with other pirates. Most were small time, and with his devil fruit, they were easy pickings. However, that all changed when one day years ago, he got into a fight with a rival pirate vessel over a merchant ship. He lost that battle, and the clown pirate never forgot a slighter an enemy, and that enemy was standing before him today. Goro Buggy growled as he grabbed his pistol with his left hand and a dagger with his right and prepared for battle just before all hell broke loose. Thanks for watching this video. Part 8 is over. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the playlist that I have created and enjoy. Link is in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.